In the far reaches of the galaxy, where light took years to travel between stars, the name of Earth had become a forgotten whisper. Once, long ago, humanity had reached out to the stars with hope. They had built colonies, traded with alien races, and even fought beside them. But after the Great Silence, when every human world went dark, the galaxy moved on, believing the Death Worlders were gone forever. Centuries passed, and the memory of mankind faded into myth. To the young races, humans were just legends, a story used to frighten cadets or warn explorers never to touch a death world again. But deep inside the shadows of uncharted space, something was stirring, a quiet hum, a signal, a movement that no one could explain. At first, it was only whispers. A merchant convoy traveling near the Orion Abyss reported being followed by ghost ships, silent vessels with no known signature, moving faster than any known engine could allow. Their sensors showed shapes that appeared for seconds and then vanished into darkness. The report reached the Galactic Council, but the admirals laughed, calling it space madness or sensor error. Still, more reports followed. A pirate group operating near the rim was found completely destroyed, not by plasma fire or antimatter blasts, but by clean, precise energy cuts that melted hulls without leaving debris. The pirate leader's final transmission was a scream and 3 words: "They are back." No one understood what it meant, but the words spread through the underworld faster than any official message. In the station of Archer Prime, alien traders gathered around dim tables, exchanging rumors with trembling hands. They said a fleet of black ships was moving through dead systems, leaving behind only silence. Some said the ships carried no crew, that they were ghosts from a lost empire. Others said they were human war machines, the last soldi. Ears of Earth, awakened from sleep, the Galactic Council dismissed it again. High Chancellor Vrothal stood before the Great Chamber, his voice echoing across 1,000 worlds. "There are no humans left," he declared. "The Death Worlders destroyed themselves long ago." The chamber cheered, relieved to believe it. But far away, on a forgotten moon orbiting a dying star, a machine awoke. It had waited for centuries, buried under layers of rock and dust, powered by the faint hum of a dormant reactor. As the systems came online, its sensors scanned the skies, searching for something. The first light it saw was from a passing alien probe, and its identification program lit up with a single word: non-Terran. The machine transmitted a signal, short and sharp, carrying a frequency no alien had ever heard before. The message was simple, only 5 words: "The Terrans are not gone." Across the galaxy, the signal passed through communication networks, bouncing from relay to relay. Some dismissed it as static, others tried to decode it, but none could. The encryption was human, ancient, and unbreakable. Those who understood the message felt their hearts turn cold. On the planet Voltra, an old historian named Karin studied the transmission again and again. He had spent his life collecting stories of the old species, and among them, humans fascinated him most. He remembered reading about their homeworld, a place called Earth, a death world so dangerous that even the strongest alien soldiers would not survive a day. He remembered how humans thrived there, adapting to storms, quakes, diseases, and wars. They had been fragile and yet unbreakable. Karin looked at the signal once more and whispered to himself, "If this is real, then the galaxy is not ready." Meanwhile, on a small outpost at the edge of the Perseus Arm, Captain Velrak of the Dominion fleet received a strange read. Bing. His radar detected multiple energy spikes from the dark void. He frowned, his crew silent as they watched. The scanners light up one by one. "It's a fleet," the officer said in disbelief. "But I can't find any ID signatures." Velrak leaned forward. "Show me the visual." And there they were, hidden behind the dust clouds. Massive black shapes drifting silently through space, no plasma glow, no warp trails, only shadows, moving in perfect formation. Velrak's breath caught as he saw the insignia painted faintly on one of the hulls, a circle of blue and white. "The ancient emblem of Earth," he whispered. "Impossible." Before he could react, the ships turned, not toward them, but toward the heart of Council space. Their engines flared once, and they vanished into faster-than-light transit, leaving nothing but a ripple in the void. Back at the Galactic Council, panic began to spread. Reports flooded in from outer sectors. Outposts gone dark, fleets missing, colonies destroyed without warning. The council chamber filled with noise, thousands of voices shouting over one another, demanding answers. The High Chancellor tried to calm them, but his words meant nothing now. Somewhere far from them, in the darkness of deep space, aboard the largest of those black ships, a human voice finally spoke for the first time in centuries. "We have waited long enough," it said, cold and calm. "Now they will remember who we are." And across the stars, every sensor, every listening post, every empire began to tremble. For the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy whispered the name that once brought both awe and fear, humanity, and the storm was coming. The mysterious transmission spread like a wildfire through the void. It echoed across communication relays, bounced off satellites, and slipped into encrypted networks, carrying one haunting message again and again. The Terrans are not gone. At first, most dismissed it as an old echo from the forgotten war archives. But the sign, "I'll refuse to die," it kept repeating, stronger each time, as if it was being amplified by unseen hands. Every empire tried to trace it, yet each investigation ended in confusion, for the signal seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. On the cold research station of Laura Nexus, a group of alien scientists worked day and night to decode it, their labs filled with the hum of machines and glowing screens. They had studied countless ancient languages, but this code was unlike anything they had ever seen. It shifted in rhythm, as if it was alive, changing itself to stay ahead of every decoding attempt. Lead researcher Dr. Ishal, an insectoid scholar with crystalline eyes, leaned closer to her console. "This encryption," she murmured. "It's Terran, but it's learning." The others froze. No artificial intelligence in the galaxy was supposed to act like this, unless it had evolved beyond control. Meanwhile, deep within the archives of the Galactic Council, old historians began digging through forgotten data vaults. They unearthed battle reports, lost journals, and even ancient human transmissions. Many of them were corrupted, but the recovered fragments told one truth: humanity never stopped fighting. Even when their colonies were destroyed, even when Earth itself vanished from all known maps, the humans never surrendered. One entry, dated thousands of years ago, spoke of something called Project Genesis, a human contingency plan designed to ensure survival, even if Earth fell. The entry ended abruptly, but one phrase stood out: "The stars will remember us." Back in the present, a lone ship drifted near the Ashen Belt, piloted by scavengers searching for derelict wrecks. Their scanners detected a strange beacon emitting the same Terran signal. "Probably junk," said one of them. "Let's scrap it." But as they approached, the beacon pulsed with light and sent a waypoint through their systems. Screens flickered, engines shut down, and the ship went dead silent. The captain cursed, hitting every control he could, but nothing worked. Then, out of the darkness, a faint blue hologram appeared in front of them. A human soldier, battle-worn and scarred, speaking words they could not understand. His uniform bore the old Earth insignia, and his expression was neither angry nor afraid, only determined. The hologram raised a hand and pointed toward the stars, then vanished. The ship powered back on by itself, leaving the crew shaken to the core. They fled the system, but one of them had recorded everything. That recording reached the Galactic Council within hours, causing chaos once again. Admirals and leaders gathered in panic, watching the hologram repeat. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Jorvak. "Humanity cannot return. Their homeworld is gone." But deep inside, even he felt a chill he could not explain. In the dark corners of the universe, the underworld listened too. Smugglers, mercenaries, and pirates began whispering of human weapons lost to time. Pulse cannons that could erase fleets, shields that bent gravity, and ships that moved faster than light itself. Some believed those weapons had been found again. Others feared that humanity had rebuilt them all. On the planet Voltra, Karen, the alien historian who had first believed the signal's meaning, continued his research. He found that the signal contained layers. Under the message, "The Terrans are not gone," there was another hidden code, a map of coordinates. When he decrypted the final layer, he realized it pointed to a region long marked as forbidden, a place of dead stars, once home to the human colony of Eos. He froze as he stared at the map, his hands trembling. "They are calling us," he whispered, "or warning us." The Council ordered a reconnaissance mission. They sent 3 scout ships to Eos sector under strict silence. No transmissions, no signals, no contact, just exploration. But only one ship returned, and what it brought back shook the galaxy. The surviving crew was pale and silent. Their report told of a massive structure orbiting a black star. It was not a station, not a ship, but something else. It was watching us, said the captain. It scanned our DNA, our weapons, our languages, and then it sent us away. When asked what it was, the captain answered with trembling eyes. It called itself the Guardian of Earth. The council erupted, trying to contain the panic. Some called for war preparations, others begged for peace talks, but no one could find a way to contact these new humans, if they even were humans anymore. Meanwhile, in the void near the Eos sector, dozens of invisible ships began to awaken, their hulls lighting up one by one. The same Terran signal pulsed through every frequency, now carrying new words. The time has come. Across the stars, fleets scrambled, empires armed themselves, and panic spread like fire. But far beyond their reach, hidden within the dark of space, humanity was already moving. They had waited long enough, and now the galaxy would remember the name they once feared. Humanity, the Deathworlders had returned, and their silence was over. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for answers that never came. The signal from the Terrans still echoed across space, and now every major empire had armed their borders. Fleets moved in silence, scouts vanished, and no one dared to travel near the Eos sector. But the silence was about to break. At the edge of the Andros Rift, where the stars looked like burning embers, a lone observation satellite picked up something strange. It wasn't a ship, not at first glance. It was a shadow moving against the starlight, enormous, smooth, and silent. The satellite systems tried to scan it, but sensors failed one after another. Then a faint symbol flickered on the image, a blue circle crossed by white wings, the ancient insignia of Earth. The data reached the Galactic Council within hours, and panic spread again. It can't be, said Admiral Rykor, staring at the holo display. That emblem hasn't been seen in 3,000 years. Yet the readings were real, the object was massive, and it wasn't alone. One by one, more signatures appeared. First 5, then 50, then hundreds. The scanners couldn't identify the energy output. It was unlike plasma or fission or antimatter. The ships moved like a tide, silent and unstoppable, forming precise formations with no communication signals between them, as if every ship knew the thoughts of the others. On board the flagship TSV Resolute, the command deck glowed in blue light. Human officers stood in silence, their faces calm, their eyes focused. In the center, Admiral Evelyn Kaur watched the holographic map unfold before her. She had gray hair tied back, scars across her jaw, and a cold fire in her eyes. "Report," she said quietly. "Fleet ready, Admiral," replied Commander Hayes. "Stealth systems fully active, all squadrons online." "Good," Evelyn said, her voice steady. "Then it's time." For centuries, humanity had hidden, not because they were weak, but because they were building. When the Great Silence came, Earth had fallen. Or so the galaxy believed. But deep beneath its surface, and in far colonies that escaped destruction, the Terrans had survived. They built in secret, far from the eyes of the empires that once betrayed them. They mastered energy drawn from dark matter, learned to bend gravity itself, and turned their pain into weapons, and now the galaxy would see the result. In council space, sensors went wild. Fleets scrambled to intercept the unknown armada, but every attempt failed. Ships sent to engage vanished before reaching visual range. Some claimed to have seen dark shapes phasing through space. Others swore they saw their own ships. Torn apart by invisible force, no one could explain it. Aboard a Dominion battleship, Captain Velrock, the same officer who once glimpsed the Terran insignia, now led a full defense fleet at the border. His heart raced as the alarms blared. "Multiple warp signatures incoming," his officer shouted. "Too many to count." Velrock's screen filled with light as hundreds of human warships emerged from the void, black and silver, shaped like blades, each one larger than any known dreadnought, their hulls shimmering with blue energy lines. They bore no empire markings, only that same insignia, glowing like a wound in space. The comms officer turned pale. "Sir, they're broadcasting something." On screen, Velrak ordered. A human face appeared, stern and calm. "This is Admiral Evelyn Kor of the Terran Alliance," she said, "to all alien powers within this region. Stand down. This is not your space anymore." Velrak froze. "This is madness," he muttered. "They can't take on the entire galaxy." But as he watched, one of the human ships moved forward, its massive engines glowing white. Then it fired. Not a beam, not a missile, but a pulse of dark energy that bent space itself. In a single second, 3 Dominion cruisers vanished, erased without explosion, without sound, only emptiness where they once were. Velrak whispered, "By the stars, what are they?" The fleet held formation, silent and unhurried, like predators in deep water. They didn't chase or destroy for sport. They simply advanced, precise and deliberate. Every empire watching realized the same truth. This was not an invasion. It was a return. In the council chamber, chaos erupted once again. "They are violating every treaty," shouted one ambassador. "We must unite against them." But another stood and whispered, "Unite? Against that? You can't fight a storm." Meanwhile, back aboard the TSV Resolute, Adman, Iral Kor watched the galaxy's panic unfold on her command screen. "They remember our arrogance," said Commander Hayes. "They laughed when Earth fell." Evelyn's voice was quiet. "And now, they will remember our strength." The fleet continued its march, crossing into systems that once belonged to human colonies. Each world they passed flickered to life, old human outposts activating, lights burning after millennia of silence. It was as if the stars themselves were awakening to welcome them home. Across the galaxy, children asked their parents about the humans. The elders whispered stories of the Deathworlders, the ones who had thrived on chaos, who fought storms and beasts and turned extinction into evolution. And now those same beings had returned with power that defied reason. For the first time in galactic history, no empire dared to declare war. They all stood still, watching, praying, hoping the Terrans would stop before reaching their borders. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. Humanity was not coming to destroy. They were coming to reclaim. And as the dark fleet moved silently through the stars, the message spread once again, not through machines, but through fear itself. The Terrans are not gone. They had risen from the ashes, and this time, the galaxy would not survive their awakening. The Terran fleet stopped at the border of Council space. It did not advance, it did not fire, it simply waited. Hundreds of black ships floating in formation, their hulls glowing faintly with blue veins of energy. Their silence was more terrifying than any battle. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Worlds screamed for protection, borders were sealed, and old rival empires suddenly remembered their differences didn't matter. Everyone feared the same thing now, humanity. In the great chamber of the Council Core, leaders from 100 species argued endlessly. "We must strike first," shouted one, "before they strike us," another replied, "and destroy ourselves. Did you not see what they did to the Dominion fleet?" Vetu, or the hall filled with noise, but beneath it all was a single question none dared to ask aloud. What if the humans are right? At last, High Chancellor Vrothal called for silence. "We will send an envoy," he said. "We will meet them before war begins." It took 3 days for the Council fleet to reach the edge of their own territory. At the center of that border, the Terran flagship TSV Resolute waited, motionless, surrounded by smaller vessels that looked like living shadows. The Council's envoy ship, a golden cruiser named Seraphis Dawn, approached slowly, its lights flashing in peace codes. Inside the Resolute, Admiral Evelyn Kor stood at the viewing window watching the alien ship approach. Her officers stood silently behind her. "They're trying to open a channel," said Commander Hayes. Evelyn nodded. "Let them." A hologram flickered to life before her. The image of the alien envoy, a tall figure with pale green skin and trembling hands. "I am Envoy T'Challa of the Galactic Council," he said. "We come to talk peace." Evelyn's face remained calm. "Peace," she repeated. "You speak that word so easily. Tell me, where was your peace when Earth burned?" T'Challa hesitated. "That was long ago. None of us alive today took part in that." Evelyn stepped closer to the hologram, her voice cold but quiet. "And yet your empires built their glory on our ashes. You took our colonies, enslaved our survivors, and erased our name from history. Now you speak of peace because you fear what we have become." The envoy's voice cracked. "What do you want?" Evelyn's gaze hardened. "We want justice," she said. "We want the truth restored. Humanity will no longer be a ghost whispered in fear. We will stand among the stars again, on our own terms." Before the envoy could reply, the entire chamber shook slightly as a faint rumble echoed through space. On the hologram, behind Tisha, Allah, his crew looked terrified. "What's happening?" he asked. Evelyn turned to her officer. "Show them," she ordered. Outside the viewport, the dark void rippled, and behind the Terran fleet, more shapes began to emerge. Colossal structures moving out of the shadows. They weren't ships, but stations, orbital fortresses made from the remains of destroyed moons. Each one carried the same insignia, the mark of Earth. The envoy gasped. "You built all this? In secret?" "For centuries," Evelyn said. "While you squabbled over borders, we built in silence. Every attack, every betrayal, every life lost, all of it remembered, all of it prepared for this moment." The envoy looked broken. "You could end us all," he whispered. Evelyn nodded slowly. "Yes, but we won't. Humanity doesn't destroy for pleasure, we destroy for balance. We rebuild where others only conquer. You will tell your council this. Earth has returned, not to rule, but to make the galaxy remember." T'Challa swallowed. "And if they refuse to listen?" Evelyn's voice dropped lower. "Then they will learn the way we learned, through fire." The transmission ended. The envoy's ship drifted away, trembling as the Terran fleet remained motionless, watching, waiting. Inside the council chamber, hours later, T'Challa stood before the leaders once more. His voice shook as he spoke. "They are not like the humans of legend," he said. "They are colder, stronger, older. Their technology, it's beyond anything we know. They don't seek war, but they don't fear it either." The room fell silent. No one moved. Finally, the Chancellor asked, "Can they be reasoned with?" T'Challa looked up, his eyes haunted. "Only if you tell the truth." Meanwhile, on the Resolute, Admiral Kor watched the stars quietly. "They will lie," said Commander Hayes. "They always do." Evelyn nodded. "Then we will show them the truth." She turned to the tactical display, showing the map of known space. Hundreds of red markers glowed. Every world built upon human ruin. "These are the worlds that forgot us," she said. "Let us remind them gently first." The fleet began to move again, silent and graceful, not toward battle, but toward reclamation. Every system they passed went dark for a few hours. No damage, no destruction, only silence. When communications returned, every planet found one message burned into their networks. Remember Earth. Across the galaxy, fear turned into awe. Empires stopped fighting each other. Scientists abandoned their labs to study human signals, and the word Terran once again became sacred. But somewhere, deep within the Council's military sector, a few leaders whispered plans of resistance. They could not accept a galaxy ruled by Deathworlders. They began gathering fleets, forming alliances in secret, believing they could stand against the Terran return. They didn't know that humanity was already watching, already listening, already waiting. The storm was not over. It had only just begun. Across the galaxy, pride became poison. The Council's message of peace turned into whispers of rebellion, and soon the whispers grew into fleets. Old empires too proud to bow gathered their armies once more. They called themselves the Alliance of Light, believing they could drive back the Terran shadow. But the humans had seen such arrogance before. They had lived through betrayal, through extinction, through silence. And now, they had nothing left to fear. At the edge of the Seraph system, the first shots were fired. 1,000 alien warships opened fire on the Terran vanguard, filling space with plasma storms and nuclear fire. The stars themselves seemed to scream, yet when the light faded, the Terran ships still floated, untouched. Their dark hulls absorbed the energy like rain on stone. On board the flagship TSV Resolute, Admiral Evelyn Corr watched the battle unfold. "So it begins," she murmured. Commander Hayes stood beside her. "They believe they can win." Evelyn's eyes were cold. "Then let them learn," she said. She raised her hand, and the command went out. "Engage." The Terran fleet moved as one. Their ships didn't turn or bank like the clumsy crafts of alien navies. They glided, sharp and deliberate, every movement calculated, precise, terrifying. The first volley came without sound. Spheres of compressed gravity hurled through the void. They didn't explode, they erased. Whole enemy formations vanished, consumed by collapsing space. The survivors tried to flee, but Terran drones, small, sleek, silent, followed them like hunters, tearing their engines apart before they could escape. Within minutes, a fleet of thousands was reduced to wreckage and dust. Across the galaxy, similar battles erupted. In the Varn Belt, a 1,000-year-old empire burned, its moons shattered like glass. In the core rings, entire armadas surrendered before the Terrans even fired a shot. But humanity did not destroy everything. For every world that had enslaved humans, they brought fire. For every colony that had offered mercy, they brought aid. Their fleet moved like judgment itself, balanced and purposeful. On the planet Therion, the last stronghold of the Alliance of Light, the skies turned black. The Terran dreadnought Vigilant descended through the clouds, its engines silent, its shadow covering cities. The defenders fired everything they had, missiles, railguns, particle beams, but nothing touched the ship. When the Vigilant landed, its ramp opened, and human soldiers stepped out. Their armor shimmered like metal and shadow combined. Their weapons hummed with dark energy. They walked through fire and smoke like ghosts of vengeance. A young Therian officer stood trembling as the humans approached. "Why do you do this?" he cried. "You already won." The lead Terran soldier removed her helmet, revealing calm eyes. "Because you must remember," she said softly. "Fear fades, memory doesn't." The aliens lowered their weapons. They had never seen soldiers who fought without hate, without rage, only purpose. Back on the Resolute, Evelyn watched transmission after transmission come in. Reports of surrender, of silence, of awe. The Council itself sent one final message, their voice shaking. "We surrender, Terrans. The galaxy belongs to you." Evelyn stood still, staring at the stars. "We never wanted the galaxy," she whispered. "We only wanted peace." Commander Hayes turned to her. "And now we have it." Evelyn shook her head slowly. "No, we have silence. Peace is earned, not given. They will test us again someday. But not today." Outside the viewport, the debris of the fallen empires drifted like dust among the stars. Human drones moved through the wreckage, rescuing survivors, rebuilding damaged satellites. Even in victory, the Terrans restored what they could, for they remembered what it meant to lose everything. News of their mercy spread as fast as news of their might. Worlds that once feared them now reached out, asking for guidance, seeking alliance. Humanity accepted only those who wished to build, never those who wished to rule. On the ruins of the Council world, the once mighty Senate Hall stood half-buried in ash. There, among the fallen banners of empires, Terran engineers raised a new one. The banner of Earth, blue and white, shining against the gray. And for the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy stood still, not because of fear, but because of respect. The humans had not come as conquerors. They had come as survivors, as rebuilders, as reminders of what true strength meant. In the silence after the war, the stars themselves seemed to glow brighter. The Terran fleet drifted above the galactic core, its formation like a crown around the light. Humanity had unleashed its power, and the galaxy had finally learned what it truly was. Not chaos, not destruction, but balance. And, across every system, on every broadcast, one phrase returned again and again, whispered with both awe and reverence. "The Deathworlders have returned." And no one dared to forget it. The wars were over, yet the echoes remained. Every system carried scars of what the humans had done, not from destruction, but from memory. No one had ever seen an enemy fight with such calm precision, such terrible mercy. The stars themselves seemed quieter now, as if even the universe feared to disturb the Deathworlders again. Across the galactic maps, borders vanished. The great empires that once ruled entire quadrants no longer existed. In their place were protectorates. Worlds watched over by Terran observers. Silent ships that floated high above their skies, never landing, never speaking. To the children of those worlds, the black Terran ships were myths, guardians, monsters, and gods all at once. On the Council's ruined world, life began to return. The Terrans had rebuilt its atmosphere filters, restored power grids, and left without claiming ownership. They simply sent one transmission to every governor, a message short and unchanging, rebuild but remember, and they obeyed. The few alien historians who dared to study the humans called it the Quiet Empire, an empire without thrones or rulers, without colonies or chains. The Terrans ruled not through control, but through presence. Every planet knew they could appear at any time, from anywhere. And so, no one risked rebellion. On the trade world of Veltar, a merchant looked to the sky each morning, watching for the black glint of Terran patrols. He had once laughed at human myths. Now he prayed to them before every voyage, whispering, "Let Earth see me as friend." Fear had become faith. Deep within the Perseus arm, where the stars were young and blue, the Terrans built something new. The Nexus Array, a vast structure connecting hundreds of worlds through quantum gates. They offered access freely, but with a single rule. No world shall enslave another. Those who broke it vanished. Their fleets found, drifting. Their leaders gone, their data erased. None knew if humanity destroyed them or simply erased their existence from reality itself. But the lesson was clear. No one crossed Earth. Admiral Evelyn Core stood aboard the TSV Resolute, watching the stars shift through the viewport. Her reflection looked older now, her eyes still sharp. "They fear us," she said quietly. "But maybe that's better than war." Commander Hayes nodded. "Fear keeps them still." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Fear once kept us silent too, until we turned it into strength." In the deep sectors, rumors grew again. Some spoke of Terran colonies awakening near black holes. Others claimed that humanity had found a way to move between galaxies. The truth was unknown, and that made it worse. For mystery was the greatest weapon of all. At night, on countless worlds, children asked their parents what a human looked like. Some said they were tall and pale as ghosts. Others said they burned with light. The truth was that none of them had seen one. Humanity had become a shadow behind the stars. Unseen, untouchable, undeniable, but even shadows leave hope. Where the Terrans passed, famine ended, diseases disappeared, and ancient archives were restored. For every act of fear, there was one of kindness, a paradox that confused the galaxy endlessly. Mercy from monsters, order from chaos. In the rebuilt council chamber, a new chancellor spoke to her people. "We live because they allow it," she said. "But perhaps they are not our doom. Perhaps they are our chance." Her words spread quickly, and across dozens of worlds, a new movement began. The Concord of Memory. Its purpose was simple. Never forget the humans. Never provoke them. Always learn from them. Back on Earth, beneath the soft glow of the restored skies, the planet had changed too. Cities of glass and light stood beside ruins left untouched. A reminder of what once happened. Children played near the Monument of Silence, a statue showing a single human hand reaching toward the stars. On its base were the same words sent to the galaxy: "Rebuild, but remember." In orbit above Earth, the Resolute turned slowly, its engines humming with the power of the void. Admiral Core looked down at her world and whispered, "They think fear keeps them safe, but fear also keeps them honest." Commander Hayes smiled. "And that's why they will never fight us again." Evelyn turned to the stars, her voice low and steady. "Not until they forget." And somewhere, beyond the edge of mapped space, a Terran scout picked up a faint signal. A fleet forming in secret, old ambitions waking once more. The Admiral's eyes narrowed as she read the transmission. "So soon," she murmured. "So foolish." The Resolute changed course, engines flaring blue. Across the stars, every listening post recorded a single encrypted message spreading faster than light. The Deathworlders are moving again. The galaxy trembled, not from war, but from the weight of memory. For everyone knew, wherever fear reached, humanity would follow, and once more the universe would hold its breath, waiting for what came next. The stars no longer feared the silence, because the silence now meant that the Terrans were listening, and when humanity listened, the galaxy moved carefully. 100 years had passed since the wars, yet the legend only grew stronger. No one had seen the Terran fleets for decades, but their laws still ruled the void. Every beacon in known space carried one symbol. The blue circle crossed by white wings. Every world that survived the fall still whispered its vow. Rebuild, but remember. The galaxy had changed. Empires no longer rose by conquest, but by merit. Trade flowed without slavery, science advanced without greed, and every new discovery was first offered to Earth, even though no one dared to visit it uninvited. On the rebuilt world of Archer Prime, once home to the Galactic Sea, Council, a new monument stood, a great ring of metal forged from the wrecks of fallen fleets. At its center burned a single light, eternal and white. They called it the Terran Flame, a reminder that order could rise from ruin. Historians still argued about how the humans had vanished after victory. Some said they ascended beyond physical form, merging with the dark matter network that powered their ships. Others believed they went home, deeper into uncharted space, preparing for something greater. But one thing was certain. Humanity had never stopped watching. On a quiet night beneath twin moons, Chancellor Raitlin of the Concord of Memory looked up from her balcony. Her advisors spoke of peace treaties, trade growth, and population booms, yet her eyes stayed on the stars. She whispered, "Do you think they're still out there?" Her guard, an old veteran of the wars, nodded slowly. "They never left, Chancellor. They only wait." Far away beyond the galactic rim, a lone Terran outpost blinked alive. The humans had not vanished. They had evolved. Their cities floated inside energy shells. Their ships no longer used fuel, only thought. From orbit, the Earth itself shone brighter, its oceans silver under the rebuilt sky. Children there learned history not as conquest, but as endurance. They were taught that fear is not power, kindness is not weakness, and silence is not surrender. Admiral Evelyn Core was gone, but her words remained in every Terran code. Strength is not what we take, it is what we protect. Her statue stood in the Hall of Dust, overlooking the rebuilt launch bays where new explorers trained. Humanity no longer built warships. They built guardians. Vessels that carried food, medicine, and hope across the stars, but the dark-hulled dreadnoughts still existed, dormant under the crust of Mars, waiting not for war, but for warning, because the Terrans remembered what the galaxy always forgot. Peace without readiness is only an illusion. In time, alien students were allowed to visit Earth under strict escort. They walked the green fields where cities once burned. They spoke with humans face to face for the first time in centuries. And they found no monsters, no tyrants, only quiet eyes that had seen too much. The visitors returned to their worlds changed. They no longer spoke of humans as Deathworlders. They called them the keepers of the balance. Under Terran guidance, new councils formed, not of species, but of ideals, justice, knowledge, mercy, memory. Each council watched over a sector of space, all linked through the Nexus Array, and above them all, invisible yet undeniable, was Earth. The unseen heart of order. Centuries later, storytellers told of a night when every star in the galaxy dimmed for one heartbeat, and a voice echoed through every ship, every station, every world. The voice spoke in every language, ancient and new. We have watched long enough. The galaxy stands, the balance holds, the Terran era begins. And when the light returned, the stars seemed closer, warmer, alive. On Archer Prime, the Terran flame burned brighter. On Earth, bells rang across cities of glass, and in the deep archives of forgotten empires, fear finally faded into respect. The galaxy had learned the truth at last. Humanity was not its end, but its beginning. The children of the Death World had become the guardians of life, and as the resolute, restored, eternal, drifted quietly above the Milky Way's heart, its systems humming softly, A final message pulsed through the void. We came from chaos, we forged peace. We remain. The message reached every corner of the universe, carried on waves of light and memory. No one dared to answer, none needed to, for everyone knew the truth written across the stars. The Terrans are eternal, and the galaxy would never forget the dawn of their era.